All right. I have to tell you, it's a holiday weekend. I have not stopped working. I much prefer the grind to anything else. Work hard, play hard. But when I'm in work mode, I'm in work mode. Don't bother me. But let me tell you a little story. I'm scrolling this morning, nice and early, and I come across a Instagram post in my feed, and it's a picture of Michael Jordan in some country at some fancy restaurant outside smoking a cigar by himself, being left alone. The premise of the post, and it's being reposted by one of these sites that aggregates. The premise is, I knew I was sitting next to somebody famous, and then they go on to post a series of photos in an Instagram carousel. And of course, these are packaged really well because it's been repurposed now. So it's gone from somebody's personal post to now a produced post, a branded post. And it's them doing a photo shoot at their table in whatever fancy restaurant they are in, whatever country they're in, with Michael Jordan sitting behind them. So inappropriate. Some of the comments say, well, he's famous, it's part of the price. And it's like, no. That makes no sense, and I'm going to tell you why. You're using it for clout. You're doing a photo shoot next to him like he's a zoo animal. Okay, it's rude. It's disrespectful. And it's got nothing to do with, he signed up for this. He's in a restaurant. He's not on a basketball court. He's not in a studio. He's not on a sound stage. And you are using him for your 15 seconds of fame because you're taking a photo shoot and you're posting. So you can't say, oh, well, that's, that's part of the deal. That's what he deserves. It's what he deserves. When you're over there taking the photos, which is essentially saying, I wish I was him. I wish I was him. No, you can't clout. So I just can't stand that clout chasing nonsense. It drives me nuts. And that's probably why I'm not an influencer and never will be, because I never wanted to be. And it's interesting how all the lines are blurred now between influencer and creator and streamer and TV and media and press. It's all one big blur, and all they care about is metrics because that's all anybody ever cared about. But if you go back to the old days of television, they used to put live ads in between the shows. Right? Live. So things could go wrong. A fridge would fall over. Things would happen, right? Live television ads. TV existed. TV shows existed to fill time between the advertising they were selling. You see, the TV was invented, and then they said, well, how do you monetize it? Well, you could use it to sell products to people, but how are you going to keep people engaged? You're going to give them content, right? They didn't call it content back then. They called it TV shows. So the idea of TV, and that's why the ads were live. They were the original embedded ads. And the whole idea is let's fill space between the shows. Between the ads. And if you think about how shows are sold, it kind of makes sense because they have something called the upfronts, which they just did. And the upfronts traditionally would sell advertising based off of a prospect. We got this guy and that guy on a show. And if the show doesn't deliver, and they'll sell you, they'll say, we're going to give you this much viewership based off of this premise and blah, 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 blah. And we're going to pre-sell the advertising to the sponsors, right? It's all pre-selling. And if you don't get it, we'll just give you more ads. Like, we'll just make up for it, right? Nobody ever gives you money back. I've seen it go the other way from my experience, where it's like, you've paid, but you know what? We have so much good footage here. How much more are you willing to give us to really show your logo? So TV has always been about that, but it's been Nielsen ratings. And if you know anything about the Nielsen box, you would get if you had a Nielsen box, or you get the paperwork and you'd fill it out, and it would be sort of like an algorithm where it would say, hey, you fill out the Nielsen book, or we put a box in your house, whichever one it was, and then we use that and we multiply against it to determine Nielsen ratings. And we'll tell you millions of people are watching whatever show they're watching, and we'll use the Nielsen metrics. But along comes the internet, and now not only can I tell you exactly how many views I'm getting and at how long somebody's watching, but I can tell you where they're watching from. And oftentimes I can target the data so specifically, and anybody that's done any online advertising understands this. I speak from experience with old business. You can target somebody through like Spectrum Advertising who's watching such and such a network, or is watching in such and such an area and is watching such and such a network or whatever. You can drill down to like and people who also browse on whatever. So you can start to add all of these conditions in because of the access to data that people don't realize. And this is why you get things popping up on your phone right after you talk about them. It is not a coincidence. It's because it's listening. It's listening to you with a microphone, and it's listening to your data, right? So I'll have a conversation, I'll get off the phone, and boom, the very thing I'm talking about will be in my Instagram feed, and I won't even have had Instagram open. So the way that advertising works has changed, right? And really, at the end of the day, the powers at B don't really care about anything other than making money. So the studio heads, whether they're making film or television, the studio heads are just trying to make money. And they're fighting the old way with the new way. And it was always going to be about how are we going to make this transition in an affordable way. And you've seen it play out in the streaming race. Now, why am I saying all this? Because streaming went back to advertising. Now you can get ads on Netflix and Disney Plus, right? We've kind of come full circle because the old model still holds true that ads work best, right? What happens on the influencer side is things become disingenuous very quickly. Even comedians will get in trouble because they'll tell a joke on social media and it's theatrical, and the story may be embellished for the sake of entertainment, as it should be when you're doing comedy or any sort of entertainment like that. It's expected, right? But people online don't see it that way. They think it's real because it's like an ecosystem we're all in together. So there's film, there's television, there's online. Film is like the most prestigious, right? So you see somebody who's in a movie and you're like, oh my gosh, they're in the movies, and you hold them at a certain level of reverence. A TV person you see much more frequently, and then you have this sort of, you feel like you know them, right? Like they're a buddy, right? Or even radio. Like I grew up listening to Howard Stern, and it was like sitting in a room with friends all day long, and you loved it because it was a very familiar feeling, so I get it. But then you go to the live thing, the live streaming thing, or even just like the ecosystem of a chat thing on whether it's TMZ or a YouTube video. I mean, it's almost like the old days of AOL chat. But you go online into these environments where people live, right? They live under the content creator, literally in the chat, or wherever they choose to post up, right? Like, it's a big deal. My TMZ comments trending. I'm so glad they brought the comments back on TMZ. I mean, there's people like that. But for what is going on the internet, because everybody is participating, they feel as though it's real. And the influencer world is kind of funny. If I post a photo on stories from the Magic Kingdom, you're going to assume I'm in the Magic Kingdom. Now, me personally, sometimes I'll just upload a couple really nice pics I took over the last 2 days that I forgot and share them. And I'm not going to label these because whatever, because it kind of ruins it, right? They're just like kind of nice wallpapers. But you think, oh, it's stories. You were there, have fun, and that happens. So when people aren't being honest with you on social media, people get really up in arms, but there's things that get done in TV every day that people don't get a pass on in the world of social, and it happens all day long in TV. So, like, here's an example. In the world of television, you're going to do things like in cable news, they'll talk to tape. So what I mean by that is they'll have a reporter go out into the field, and that reporter will grab a bunch of footage, and they'll package a segment. And they'll do it in such a way that when the live anchor in the studio throws to it, it sounds like they're talking. They may even ask a question to the tape. And the tape may even say, back to you, John. But they just shoot so many versions of it. And unless you're watching all day long, you can't pick up on that, right? And unless you work in the business or have any understanding, you wouldn't pick up on it. So, but then you go to social media and you do something pre-recorded without mentioning it for the sake of convenience, and everybody's up in arms. Or you cheat something in a photo and everybody's up in arms. You know what I mean? So it's like the techniques that work in the world of production, they still apply in the world of social media, but because everybody expects reality, because they think social media is reality, and it is not, it is user-generated content, the expectations are different. So I remember talking to Serena, who does live streaming on TikTok, talking about how when she would step out of character, people around her, like her peers, would be like, oh my God, how weird. You were just acting that way and now you're this way. Like, that's fake. And I'm like, it's not fake. It's a character. It's a persona. You're performing for people. So it's a much more blurred line. And the reason I'm going down this whole rant is because when I go to something like Evermore, I'm there with media, but I am not media. And I'm not going to go there like an influencer and be like, look at my day at Evermore. I like the slick produced pro package. That's the kind of videos I like to put together, whether I'm using a template for a more fun shortcut video or whether I'm doing the editing myself, like the longer form Evermore video you saw on TikTok with the VO. I like doing those because, A, I don't like the influencer style because I don't like it. I don't want to look at myself while I'm editing. That's A. Okay, that's A1. And then on top of that, in addition to, I think that the style that I do with those lends itself to be shared. It's more evergreen. It holds up. If your face is all over it, it doesn't really have context everywhere you put it. But a slick video like that, if they wanted a copy of that, they can have it, they can use it, and then my work is out there, and I like that, right? So I like the idea of it potentially having legs. It may not be the best for trending on social because people want the, hi guys, it's me. Oh my God, I'm totally trying the mimosa. You know? No. I shoot some of that stuff occasionally. I'll never, very infrequently, unless it's funny. And if I can make it funny, then in the name of comedy, I'll do something. But when I get invited to something like that, I post those videos. I'll post a couple of the teaser videos, just throw them up there because I can. But the main video, I'll mark it as a sponsored video because they're spending hours taking me around all day. I'm not getting anything. I'm the one giving up my time and my work. I'm hoping it builds a relationship. Maybe they'll invite me to stay there and shoot more content. But I still mark it sponsored because it just seems like a more direct, honest way to share what it is. I mean, again, I guess I could do hey, I got invited to a press day, but it's like, let me produce the content in such a way that maybe they can use it so that the client is happy and I can build that relationship. I don't go to SeaWorld. I don't go to Universal. I don't go do all these things. Maybe if I was invited, I'd do them. Back in the early days before podcasting was a term, I had a radio show. It was live every Sunday, and I've talked about this in the podcast before, but we also did red carpets. So we'd go out all over L.A., and we would do like these B-level red carpets, young Hollywood events. I remember when Miz, the wrestler, before he even was on like the reality shows or just starting on the reality shows, like there was a circuit. It was all of the same people, I got tons of footage of these interviews. I mean, talk about stuff I could release one day. Tons and tons of footage, right? But we would go do these red carpets, and I would stay up all night and edit them and turn them around quicker than anybody else, which got us invited to do more stuff. I never made money off of them, but we got to interview lots of really cool people, and we got really fun clips. I mean, I'm sitting on years of this. We did this show for 4 years. And the reason I did it that way, the reason I didn't just sit on the stuff is because the quicker you get it out there, they're thrilled because they've got something to show immediately, okay? And then also, it's off my plate. I don't get piled up. I often hear when I go to the few times I go to these events, people are piled up, and I know the feeling. So I grind it out. And so I posted a video. What was it? What did I post yesterday? Oh, I posted a video advertising the app, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And somebody commented, all your stuff is ads. I'm like, well, no, it's not that all my stuff is ads. I'm back to streaming somewhat here. But like when I do a FlashForge video, it's because they sent me a free printer. I'm not even trying to get you to buy one because we couldn't even get the sales link activated, and I didn't even care. Like, keep sending me free printers. I'll make stuff to sell on my Etsy. It's more work that way, but that's not that's not what I'm looking for, right? Like, I'm not. Yeah, I guess there's ways to do it, but like that way for me, like the influencer model for me, but that's not the path I've chosen. And I'll get to it. Stick with me. I'm getting there. So somebody made that comment, and it's like, look, these are like in-house ads. You know, I would much rather be advertising in-house stuff to find different ways to get people to subsidize and support what I'm doing than be leaning on one thing. And I put a lot of time into building that up. The Substack is filled with articles, okay? The podcast, as you're listening to here, has been built up, and I'm so thankful for Kenzie helping me get that off the ground, and she is welcome anytime she wants to come back. She knows that. I've never told her that personally, just because I haven't. But I do talk to her. I haven't told her that. It's much easier for me to say it here. So I kind of think the idea of advertising for me versus being the quote-unquote influencer allows some separation so that when I am trying food from a place, you know you're going to get an honest review. I'm not telling you because I was put on a list. It's also the same reason I won't get invited to so many things, because I'm not going to stand there and tell you everything is great. So I understand the response that this particular person had on TikTok of everything's an ad. But it's like I'm trying to get stuff off the ground. I'm trying to drum up support. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not charging for this app that I launched. This app was an accident. Let's get into this. So the last few months I've been to school. Literally, I've been in self-education mode, and I often do this with myself, and business comes out of it. It's how the arcade business was built. It started with tinkering and learning how to fix things, and the next thing you know, I'm buying and flipping, and bada bing, bada boom. So it's the entrepreneurial pattern, and I know it. So I go from building the computers and learning all the video streaming protocols and hooking up all the hardware and getting like web hooks to talk to motors, and I got all sorts of crazy stuff going on over here. You haven't seen anything yet. You've seen the Muppet AI going. I mean, that's something I did on my spare time. So I recognize the value of AI. I've added it into my workflow, and I recognize that, you know, there's a lot that you can do with AI, but there's also a lot AI can do for you. And I know a lot of people fear it, but I'm always on the early side of things, so I'm just soaking it up. This application does this, and I've learned so much. And I said to Nick, I said, I have to get in on this AI boom because I firmly believe that, you know, this space is where it's at. Now, I have a patent from 2006, put a pin in that. At this point in this conversation with Nick, I'm not even thinking about this patent. I'm just like, I got to soak up this AI. We're on the front of something, and there's money here. It's like a gold rush. I got to get in on it. So I'm learning, and I'm just figuring out all these different things you can do. And then finally, I start using AI to teach me how to write software. Now, I have very limited coding experience. I taught myself HTML in high school in the very early days of the web. So I know how to edit a website by code. Not well, but I know what I'm looking at, right? And I know how the code is structured. And then in college, I took a coding class. I was class president, and I took a coding class. My coding partner was my vice president. Her and I only passed because we were so busy with senior class duties, and they weren't going to fail us, that we did our final in theory. So instead of writing the code, I could write the code theory. So I've dabbled in code, but I am not a coder. But I used AI to teach me, and I started writing these applications, and I wrote a news aggregator that I haven't even shared with anybody. At some point, I'll just make a fun video with it if people want to see it, or make a Substack content out of it. But I wrote a news aggregator just for kicks, and it aggregates from like 15 to 20 some news sources, depending. You can tick them off. And then when it pulls up the articles, you can click, and it'll start to read you the preview of the article in an AI voice. And I wrote it just for fun. Then I wrote a food service application because I go to Dunkin' every morning, and I was thinking, oh, my God, and I was talking to the manager there. So very quickly I wrote a food service application that can monitor trends in hardware, and I haven't done anything with them yet. I'm sitting on these. And I was talking to Yoey, and because now, okay, so before I get there, so now I'm like, I have a real problem to solve because I'm building up all this streaming stuff, and I stream on all these different platforms. So I got to solve this problem. So, we had done the marathons and all of these, and I discovered that the biggest problem for me was I wanted to consolidate my chat. So I wrote an application, and I added AI into it. And Yoey, I'm talking to Yoey about the AI boom, just like I'm talking to you. And he's like, somebody's got to do like something like that for Disney. And I go, bro, I could code that by lunch. I did. And then I spent weeks making it smarter. So I accidentally built this app, thepixieplannerapp.com. And while we're talking about sponsors, go check out Colleen at Pampered Chef and Russell, RK Law Pro, my friends at FlashForge for your 3D printers, and my Etsy page for all your fun tchotchkes. Okay? So you can go into the description and you can get all that information. But I basically wrote this thing on a whim, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to learn off of this kind of idea that Yoey threw at me, and I'm just going to run with it. And I'm not charging for it. I don't want to, and I've been told I should, but it's live, it's free, and it's going to use AI over time to learn about park analytics. It's using historical data, but it's also going to learn. So when rides go down, it's going to predict over time when they open, so you don't have to buy lightning lanes. You can wait for rides to go down, and over time it'll become so accurate. It'll tell you Mine Train's going to open up between this time, and then you can plan around that, and you can save your time and your money. And there's no user account required. It is free, and you just go right. There's no app to download. You can go right to the browser on your phone. You can save it to your phone screen. And it's done. And it opens up like an app. And I wrote it by myself. Okay, I used AI to teach me. But more importantly, I now have these two next apps, because the final app, the one I haven't told you about, goes back to that patent, right? And that's the big boy. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but we're going to change the game with that. Okay, we're going to change the game. It's got nothing to do with Disney. It's got everything to do with entertainment. We are going to change the game. But this Pixie Planner app, that was an accident. But I figured, you know what? It's perfect. And you can thank Yoey for me being back in the parks, because I was like, well, now I got to go back in the parks to promote it. Because so the whole I'm just trying to learn. And the whole plan has taken legs on its own. And we're going all the way back to this patent in 2006. So the next 18 months are going to be very, very busy, very, very content rich, I hope, but certainly very, very busy. And we're going to scale. I've already got somebody working on this code. Okay. I'll tell you more about the subsequent apps over time. The next one's going to launch very, very soon in test mode, but that's not going to really be for you all. This one's for you. I keep hitting the mic. This one's for you. It's free. Have fun. But then the big boy, which has nothing to do with theme parks, nothing to do with Disney, nothing. It's a big boy. It goes back to my patent from 2006. That is where I'm headed. You'll enjoy it all. I assure you. But it's been a very interesting few months. I keep hitting this mic bracket because I bought a mic bracket so I could have two microphones up here. because of the setup that I've built. I've built so much up here, and I've yet to share it with you all. I wanted to do a podcast today just to put a little color behind everything. I wanted to explain to you the genesis of the PixiePlannerApp.com. It's free. Just go click it. I'm not selling it. Just go look, and you'll notice it's often too smart right now. So we're going to get it dialed in, but it's just a really cool side project. Not anything that I thought I would do. I don't know. I could take it further. I've had so many ideas thrown at me from the folks around me about how to elevate it. So there's natural ideas on how to elevate it. But it was an accident. It's an accident. It's not my big idea. My big idea is huge. This is an accident, But as I like to say, my accidents are other people's big ideas. And yeah, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit here because you know what? I've written 5 software applications by myself this year on top of all the other stuff I've done, and I'm grinding it out. So while everyone's at a barbecue, I'm here working. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying every once in a while you got to represent. So it's going to be a big 18 months. I'm very, very excited. I don't even feel like making this a long podcast. I wanted to just put a little context behind the PixiePlannerApp.com. All right. Wouldn't it be funny if that's not even the right URL? Like, wouldn't it be funny if I was wrong that that's not even the right URL for the website? Could you imagine if that wasn't even the right URL? As I vamp to go check it. But no, it's the PixiePlannerApp.com. The PixiePlannerApp.com. I told you, I'm not an influencer, right? I'm a businessman. Which is why I knew it was, in fact, the right URL. But when you go up to the top there, you're going to get your weather analytics and you're going to get your trends and your insights. You can collapse that and then go right to your wait times. And then as park attractions go down, it will start to calculate the reopening time. And then over time, it will learn to better predict. So it's all right there for you. Enjoy it. My gift to you. Happy accident. Happy accident. So there it is. It's been a wild few months. It's been a fun week back in the park. By the time you're hearing this, I will have been back in the park. We'll get Nick on for the next podcast because him and I have a story I want to share. It's hilarious. And there's other things to talk about, so I'll save those. But I thought, let me just jump on and do like a little mini update here, give you something. But it's been interesting. The whole thing started when we did that marathon from the house, and now it's fun for me because I'm back in the parks and people are thrilled. And yet you still get people going, when are you going to play Fortnite? I miss Will It Float? I miss the cooking segments. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm prepared to give you all of that. So I love that we've come this far, and I'm thankful for those that will continue to follow. It humors and confuses me to no end when I see randomly somebody stopped following on the updates on Instagram on the broadcast channel. I'm like, I didn't even do anything. I didn't even post anything there. What was it? What you got to bug up your tuchus? What's the matter? What did I? And then it makes me laugh because I'm like, who are you? Which one of you nudniks is it that unfollowed me? Which one of you nudniks didn't like that I posted something that had something remotely to do with the way the world works, something that wasn't about, Tigger and Pooh? Okay, no disrespect. I love them both. But was that it for you? Because that's how I look at it. I'm like what was it that made you like that? And that's the problem with social media. You notice these things, and I don't want to care, but there's a human side where you're like, I didn't post anything. What did I do? Did something in the algorithm finally catch up and you didn't like it? What, you didn't like that I had Rick Wilson on? Is that what it was? And by the way, you're probably somebody that has run up to me in the theme park, one of the theme parks. By that I mean one of the Disney parks, and said, oh my God, I love watching. You know what I mean? It's always one of them. Which is why when people say you're my favorite and blah, 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 it goes in one ear and out the other because they're the first ones to go from loving you to hating you. And it happens in our culture all the time. Your biggest supporters become your biggest haters. I can think of 100 examples in popular culture. It happens all the time. I mean, it happened with Trump. You want to be honest, it happened with Trump. Everybody loved that guy until he got into politics, okay? Nobody had a bad word to say about that guy, even if they should have, until he got into politics. And I'm not defending the man. It's the prime example. Howard Stern's another good example. Everybody loved Howard Stern. Okay? Nowadays, if it's kind of funny, this is a total tangent, but if you look at what Howard did in his most shocking moments, it wouldn't even move the needle today. Wouldn't even move the needle. The most shocking moments of Howard Stern's career don't even come close to the crap on the internet. And it's kind of appalling when I see some of the stuff that comes up in my Twitter feed, and I really try not to scroll as much as I used to. But sometimes you're just taking a break from stuff, and I try not to. I try to put on some music, and I have a balance board, try to get up there and do a little exercise. But you see the way things like OnlyFans are ruined. Like, why are we teaching young girls that the quickest way to make money is ideal and acceptable, which is to sell yourself? Now, I'm a red-blooded male. I've never been on OnlyFans. Never been on OnlyFans. Okay, I've been on lots of other sites. I've never been on OnlyFans. And I don't understand why we can't wake up to the fact that that's what needs to be eradicated from our social media footprint. I did not plan on talking about this, but here we are. I would much rather see the next generation grow up to be doctors, attorneys, first responders, and educators than I would rather than be, quote, content creators. Whether we're talking about young girls on OnlyFans, we're talking about young men streaming on Twitch, okay? We're talking about, like, whatever it may be. I don't, it's all over the place. It's YouTube, it's Twitch, it's everywhere. It's Rumble, it's everywhere, right? And then we're in this podcast culture, okay, and this man on the street interview culture, which, again, these are all things that come from the Stern Show. And they used to just be relegated to a show, and now it's embedded in the culture. Everybody's got a podcast. I'm telling you, I offended one of these media people. I could tell you who it was, but I won't, because she was like, oh, yeah, I'm focused on my podcast. I'm like, ugh, everybody has a podcast, me included. But we're in this podcast culture now. It's worse than the first boom, and everything on YouTube is like a podcast. Everybody's got a podcast, and everybody is in this position to have an opinion. I miss the days of YouTube videos. It seems like YouTube doesn't have as many videos like it used to of just quality entertainment. It's part of the mission I'm on. So all of this to say that we have really, really killed we've really killed the culture as it pertains to the youth, with ideas like being content creators, and certainly with things like OnlyFans, which is porn. It's not even content creation, it's porn, right? And the problem I have is you could use the same tools, and by that I mean the internet. You could use the same tools to educate and enrich yourself, and you can change the world, and you can make money from your living room. Right? There are people that do it all the time. I'm fascinated when I go to ship a couple packages and I see a stack of packages. I'm like identical packages. And I'm like, oh, that person's running a business from their house. There are people out there and they're packing up hundreds of orders a day, thousands of orders a day, selling a widget from their home. It might be something they 3D printed or handmade, or a button that they're pressing, or a shirt they're printing from their garage. But there's opportunities out there, and it's the same system that you can utilize. So if you're so lazy that you think the best way to make money is to sell yourself, then and by the way, selling yourself is all of those things we just talked about, right? That is pornography, and that is the influencer culture, right? Constantly selling yourself and selling yourself out. That's why I don't go to those events, because I'm not going to sit there and lie and tell you everything looks good just so they let me go to the next one. I don't care. I've been to too many events with too many people, and they're all stupid and annoying. and I don't like being around that many people, and I don't like being corralled. So I'm not impressed. Okay? And I also really don't have the face for it. So I think when it's all said and done, I just don't fit the mold. But somehow here I am with an audience. So whatever. I don't even know why you're listening at this point in the podcast. I'm going to end it. All of this to say, that side of the culture, to bring it back to the opening of the show, it drives me nuts. It absolutely drives me nuts when I see people clout chasing, like this girl who did the Michael Jordan pictures, all right? And that's only the first level, because then there's like the F. Jerrys of it all, who then take that, aggregate it, and make it worse, right? But I can't stand that we've gotten to this side of our culture where everybody has a camera. So even if you're in the right, you could still be in the wrong. Last example, you can have a camera filming it, catching a crime, and that's great that you caught the crime on camera, but you could have maybe stopped somebody and been of help. You know what I mean? Or maybe, here's another example, end of the podcast. I know not everybody can handle when I say these things. And by the way, I said like during the lives this week, I'm like, oh, save it for the podcast. If somebody doesn't tell me to talk about it, I'll never remember. So I know there were some like things that I said I would save for the podcast. Unless I am cued to do so, it ain't going to happen. So, but I'm happy to do so if prompted. But another example is when these people take the cameras, take the phones, and they stage the whole thing at Walmart to chase the pedos. And obviously, like, I'm thrilled that you're trying to fight that. But the way you're doing it and the reason you're doing it, it's like the same thing with the people that give money to homeless people on camera. I'm like, you're not doing these things for the right reason. You're doing them now for the content. So we live in this world now where two people can be holding up a cell phone, filming each other, and without the cell phones, one person can be in the right and one person can be in the wrong. But as soon as you introduce the cameras, the ethics change. You see what I mean? Because now what happens is should you really be filming that? You'll notice times over the years when I'm streaming, if there's a medical emergency, I'm not going to film it. I will turn the phone the other way. I'm not going to film somebody's medical emergency for content, for clout, for clicks. I refuse to do it. But we live in a culture where somebody will film that and then post it for the views. And then we become very desensitized. And that's why when we see things like that boat crashed in New York and Brooklyn a week ago, whatever it was, those clips go all around the internet. But those are people, some people are dying in those clips, and we're watching it like it's a movie, and we don't feel any different about it because we're so desensitized, right? So we've lost that sort of line of ethics. And that goes back to the comment about everybody's on the internet and everybody feels entitled. Everyone feels like it's a level playing field even when it's not. So whether it's seeing your favorite content creator out somewhere or seeing Michael Jordan out somewhere or just another individual, right? Those are all human beings having an experience, and you would think you would respect boundaries irrespective of someone's profession. And if you distill it down to that, it should make perfect sense. Oh, my God, they're famous. Yeah, no, it's okay. He's retired. He's hanging. He's doing his thing. Let the man live. If you want to say, hey, man, really appreciate you. Thanks for all the entertainment, and then go back to doing your thing, then do it that way. Now, I said that was my last story. I'm going to end with this. I've been involved in politics in various ways my whole life. And so I was after Barack Obama got elected the first time, I left that campaign and I joined a group called Independent Voter, and they were based out of San Francisco, and they asked me to be the LA chapter chair, which I think I've talked about on the podcast before. It sounded really impressive, but there was nobody else in the chapter. And I did 2 press conferences with Schwarzenegger, and I'm sure I've told this story before, so I apologize, but hey, it's at the end. So I hold these, and you can go find these YouTube videos. I mean, I'm Schwarzenegger, and I'm up there in the suit, and I do the first one, and the votes are coming in. I think it was Maldonado, his lieutenant governor, was up for re-election. So we're all down by the pool. It was like the Beverly Hilton Hotel private event. And I'm invited because we still have the second speech the next day to do. So I'm in the circle for a minute. And it's a big party. Tons of people are there. Arnold's not there. Okay, and I can hear Maldonado. The numbers are coming in, and I can hear Maldonado complaining Schwarzenegger doesn't want to get out of the jacuzzi. And I'm watching the Lakers game. The Lakers game on, I think it was postseason. I really don't remember. Maybe it wasn't postseason. I don't remember. Probably wasn't. So I'm standing at the table watching the game. Down comes Schwarzenegger finally. And he's got a glass in his hand. I don't know what it was. And he comes up to my table, of all the tables, and he goes, "Who's winning?" I go, "We are." And he puts his drink down, and he said, okay, I almost said he said, "I'll be back," and I wasn't intending to do it that way, but he put his drink down and inferred that he would be back. He just did. He just did it. I'm not saying he said it, but that was the inference. So he put his drink down, and he left, and because right behind me was where the poll numbers were coming in, so he goes back there and he checks the computers. And in that short period of time, and we're at a private event, this young guy comes up to me and he goes, "Will you take a picture of me with the governor when he comes back?" And I go, "No." I go, "It's totally inappropriate." And he's like, "Oh." So Arnold comes back, and before he can even get his hand on his drink, the guy goes, Governor, can I get a picture with you?" And Arnold goes, "Absolutely." Grabs his drink and walks to the other side of the pool and sits down on the couch and never comes back. And I look at the guy like, "You idiot. You played your act like you've been here before." I'll see you next time.